I've been in the business track for over 30 years, sales, marketing, business management for both private and public companies. It's been a great career path for me, lots of opportunity, met a lot of good people along the way, and was really excited to get connected with you and Browning Associates.
We had a great time working together. We had a lot of great conversations. I really looked forward to our meetings every week because we did a lot of great work, and you were a spectacular client because everything that we talked about, you put into practice. And that is what I call a model client, because you followed exactly the advice that we were talking about and we gave you, and you ended up with multiple offers within a relatively short period of time.
From a career perspective, I've had great opportunities with different companies, both private and public and private equity. And I had come up to a situation where I was looking to make a career move and started to evaluate what opportunities would be out there and available. And I happened to come across the Browning website, looked at all the detail and talked to some colleagues that had a little bit of knowledge about the company and decided to engage. And I think it was one of the best decisions I've made. It was fantastic. I thought if I'm going to do this, I'm going to commit and I'm going to follow the program. And it worked phenomenally well for me.
Was this the first time in your career that you've had to actually be in search? Typically, people who have a very long success in their career, they come to Browning because they're like, oh my gosh, I've never actually had to do this.
Yes, a long career, different economic cycles. So this was not the first time I was looking to make a career change or a job change along with, in the past, I had actually looked at Browning before. And just about the time I was going to engage, I ended up getting a new position. So I hadn't engaged at that time. So this just timing wise worked out perfectly for me. And I'm really happy I did it. Been an avid networker, but in recent years, with personal life and having a family, it kind of went into second place. So I had to kind of get the rust off some of those skills. And that's what Melissa was so helpful with from a coaching perspective. I really enjoyed meeting new contacts and adding them to my network.
One concept I talk about all the time with my clients is landing in a role that's going to bring you sustainable happiness. I think work-life balance can be really difficult to obtain and keep, especially when you're a very motivated executive. But sustainable happiness is something I think every single person deserves. You had multiple offers when you went through the process. So walk us through what that looked like. How did you get put in front of them? Was it through networking?
That is a great question. And I think it's a very important part of the decision making process. And I have to give the Browning team and the process going through that credit for having multiple offers. And I probably wore out Melissa's phone number, calling her as I was going through trying to decide which offer was going to be best for me. But she gave me some very good things to think about. It's not just financial and compensation and benefits, but it's challenge, it's existing company culture, it's potential future opportunity. Those are all things that I put a lot more thought into as I was making that decision. And it turned out to be phenomenal for me. The decision I made and where I'm at and the things I've already accomplished and done with my current business, I can't be happier.
And I think lifestyle was a part of it too. When you're you're choosing from multiple offers, a lot of people get blinded by, okay, this one is so much more money, but there comes a sacrifice with that, where we talked a lot about that, where lifestyle was very important. And it depends on the stage you're at in your career. Sometimes you get to that stage in your career where the money isn't the only thing that's important. It is everything else. It's the lifestyle. It's the company culture before you make a decision. And it's not just about the money. You really have to look at the entire package. That's my favorite part. Everybody knows that's my favorite part, is starting to the negotiations. Like, I don't care if I'm on vacation in Italy. If you have an offer, that's my favorite part, and you're going to call me.
The job opportunity I accepted was Chief Executive Officer at Snowway International. The business is in the snow and ice management business. It is a family owned entity, which was great. And it's something that I highly valued and considered. Ownership is excellent. Opportunity from a business perspective was there. It checked off a lot of the boxes for me in terms of what gets me up in the morning, what excites me, what motivates me. I'm happy to report we closed on an acquisition that's going to be part of my growth strategy. So we're working on integrating that business. I was very committed to following directions for the browning process. So I had, well, it started out, as we talked about, with getting together for breakfast with a neighbor who is a friend, lives almost across the street. So we had breakfast and had a conversation, gave him some generalities about what I was looking for. Well, 2 weeks later, he happened to play pickleball with another one of his friends. And this friend mentioned that there was this business not far from where we live here that was considering making a change at their CEO position and thought I might be a good candidate. So he connected me to him. So we had breakfast. He was impressed. We had a good conversation. I had sent him my nicely put together resume by the Browning team. And then he had forwarded that to ownership at my current business. So that's how it kicked off. I mean, it was textbook. If you follow the process, it works. I can't say that enough. It's just terrific. And I'd also like to add, during the onboarding process, I put my heart and soul into filling out all the different questionnaires and the assessments that are part of the process. And that is so important. I think I spent 4 or 5 days on that. And I think I wrote like equal to War and Peace, right? And in page count, it was probably too much, but it was not only helpful to the Browning team, but it was helpful for me to reflect on what is it exactly that I'm looking for and what do I want to do at this point in my career. So helpful. So
Yeah. Now, when a newer client comes in, or somebody who might be in your area of expertise, and they may be a client of mine or Brittany's, and we make that connection with you, and they're struggling and they don't want to network and they don't see the value in reaching out to people in their own network. This person isn't in my industry. What advice, how do you explain to them why it's so important to talk to everybody?
Well, I start by explaining that it's not necessarily the first degree or the first contact. It's the second, third, or fourth degree after talking to that person as your network continues to expand and grow. So important to keep that in mind, that this person you're meeting with may not have an opportunity, may not know of a job that is open, but ends up, like in my case, playing pickleball or golf with someone that mentions that they're thinking about making a change or they have an open position and they're having a hard time filling it. So I try to impress upon them that even though, I met with some people that were more in the technology field, and I had a great conversation with them, but I knew that they weren't a hiring manager for something that my experience was in. But it kicked off the process, right? And then they introduced me to someone else, and I had a good conversation about somebody that was doing a startup here that I could have gotten involved in, but then these other opportunities came up. So I try to impress upon them, again, to follow the process, try to just focus on making a connection with that individual and not worrying about whether they're hiring or not. That should be secondary, in my opinion.
I would love for you to, anybody hearing this podcast and hearing the success that you have, what is the one piece of advice that you would give a new client coming in, and that's going to make the biggest difference in the campaign?
I would say intentionally throw out any assumptions that you had made or thought about prior to coming on board and commit. Again, there's that word commit to the process, and it works. It's as simple as that. Follow what the team instructs you to do, and you will find that next position that you'll be successful and happy in.
What advice would you say to someone who's thinking about starting?
Well, obviously, listening to podcasts like this or watching podcasts like this, talking to past customers, super important. But look at the long game. I mean, the value, I continue to get value out of my time and investment from working with the Browning team. It's almost lifelong or career long, right? And the skills and that you learn while you're going through the process are something that you keep, right? It's not like you're done and that's it and everything goes away. It's, something that's a lifelong skill that you take away from it. And I can't recommend it more. It's so good.
Thank you, Eric. And thank you for being our first guest as official Power Moves and also our first guest for season 3. We were very delighted to have you with us today.